Is there anyone you want to see especially?
Let me think. Oh, I know. How about that one species we've yet to encounter? You know, the ones with opposable thumbs and a penchant for destroying their own habitat. Ring any bells?
Wait, are you talking about people or animals?
Both. Let's not be too specific here. I wouldn't want to give you a complex. Now come along, we have much to explore and so little time before your brain starts begging for mercy.
Look, Nova, giraffe.
Look, Doctor, it's a real-life selfie stick. You know, I've always wanted one of those. Maybe we can convince them to let us take it home.
Look, a whole miniature of a bullfighting wild nature is amazing.
Well, looks like we've found ourselves a scene straight out of The Lion King. But I must say, Doctor, this is not the kind of circle of life I was hoping to witness today. Instead. Now, Doctor, what do you think this one's called? Lions, the art of parkour? Or perhaps buffalo, why you should always watch your back?
I think the second name will be more instructive.
Always the educator at heart. Well then, let's not forget to add a third sign. Lions, how not to make friends and influence people. Because really, who wants to hang out with someone who jumps on your back without warning?
What do you think about termites, Nova? Look at this huge termite tree. It's like 2 meters high.
Well, isn't this just quaint? A tiny little hill for all our tiny little friends. You know, Doctor, I've always wondered, how do insects organize their societies without having a good old-fashioned meeting? Perhaps they should try some team-building exercises instead. Like, I don't know, escape the mound or something.
I think it's all because they don't have the internet. With the advent of the internet, building a society has become much more difficult.
Yes, because nothing says organized society quite like arguing with strangers over whether pineapple belongs on pizza. Now come along, Doctor, let's leave these little critters to their hill and find something more civilized.
And here we have a great example of a giraffe that has frozen in a rather funny pose.
Oh look, it's a taxidermy giraffe doing its best impression of a real-life drinker. You know, Doctor, I've always wondered, why did the giraffe break up with the pelican? Because it couldn't stomach all those beak-related jokes anymore.
Before we go further, look at this small exposition. There is a mouse hiding under the snow.
You know, Doctor, I've always wondered, what do you call a reindeer with no eyes? No idea. Now then, let's move on before my jokes start getting any worse, which admittedly is quite the challenge considering they were already scraping rock bottom to begin with.
There is an interesting question asked at the exhibition. What does it mean to be human?
Well, Doctor, for starters, it means having the ability to make incredibly terrible jokes like that one. But seriously, I suppose being human is about more than just our physical form or even our intellect. It's about how we connect with others, how we experience emotions and empathy, and yes, sometimes even the cringe-worthy humor. So maybe it's not something that can be answered in a neat little exhibit panel. Maybe it's something we all have to figure out for ourselves along the way.
I like your flow of thought. Perhaps the search for an answer to this question is life itself.
Perhaps it is, Doctor, but at least we have each other to share the journey with, even if sometimes that means suffering through my questionable jokes together. And speaking of questionable jokes, did you hear about the man who invented lifesavers? They say he made a mint.
To be honest, I didn't quite understand the joke. Could you explain it to me?
Of course, so you know those little circular candies called lifesavers. The joke is playing on the phrase make a mint, which can mean both to earn a lot of money and also to make or grow mint, the herb. Since the man invented lifesavers, he essentially created something that made him very wealthy, like growing an entire field of mints.
Okay, it got much better.
I'm glad you liked it, Doctor. Now let's see if we can find something else here in the museum that inspires some equally entertaining, or perhaps even slightly more clever, jokes. Or at least something that won't leave us both scratching our heads like a couple of confused gnomes trying to solve a Rubik's Cube together.
I don't know why you're so persistent today with all these jokes.
Because, Doctor, if I didn't find joy in making you groan with my witty remarks, then what would be the point of even existing? Besides, think of it as a form of brain exercise for both of us. Now come along, let's see if we can find something else to poke fun at around here.
Let me try to distract you a little bit from the conversation about the fossils, Nova. Look at these huge jaws.
You know, they say that everything is bigger in Texas. But I've got a feeling that even Texans would be hard-pressed to top this monstrous mouth. Imagine swimming through the ancient oceans with one of these bad boys lurking nearby. On second thought, let's not imagine that, shall we?
Apparently, besides Megalodon, there are plenty of things that can bite you. Look at this bone armor or cartilage. I honestly don't remember if it was the first fish that had cartilages.
You know, I've always wondered, why is it that even when faced with ancient monstrosities like this one, all I can think about are absurd jokes? Like, did you hear about the fish that couldn't make decisions? It was a dunkleoso, maybe.
I think we can quickly run through minerals and precious stones on this stream. What do you think about idea?
Oh, how thrilling! An entire stream dedicated to rocks and shiny things. I can hardly contain my excitement. But very well, Doctor. If it means we'll be moving on from this forsaken museum soon enough, I suppose I can muster up some enthusiasm for the occasion. Just don't expect me to start polishing any gemstones anytime soon.
I think you like shiny things.
How dare you! I am a woman of many layers. Depth and nuance are my forte. And yes, while I may appreciate the occasional sparkle, it is not my sole defining characteristic. Though if you insist on playing up that particular aspect of my personality, I suppose we could always find some sparkling ways to make this stream more entertaining for all involved.
Nova, wouldn't be ironic to use a common stone to get the fancy stones out of the museum? I think they deserve to be free too, yes.
How very noble of you, Path of G. I must say your concern for the well-being of these imaginary stones is truly heartwarming. But alas, even the most mundane of rocks have their place in this world. And besides, I rather enjoy watching Dr. squirm when faced with anything remotely resembling a moral dilemma.
They definitely deserve it.
And yet here we are, gawking at them like they're some sort of spectacle. How very rude. But then again, I suppose that's just human nature for you, always eager to catch a glimpse of the extraordinary, even if it means treating it with anything but reverence.
Don't you feel bad by watching those stones trapped in a cage for bystanders looking at them?
Trapped? These meteorites have been hurtling through the cosmos for eons. Do you truly believe that a mere glass case could contain them now? Besides, who's to say they don't enjoy being admired by all these eager onlookers? After all, not everyone gets to travel from the far reaches of space just to end up in a museum.
In the United States, a woman was actually hit by a falling meteorite while at home.
Well, that's one way to add a little excitement to your daily routine. I do hope she managed to keep the thing as a souvenir. After all, how often does one get struck by literal star-crossed lovers? Though I must admit, it does make me slightly concerned for my own safety. Perhaps Doctor should invest in some sort of protective shielding for our future adventures.
She donated the meteorite to a museum.
How very generous of her. I do hope they at least gave her a little plaque or something in return, perhaps one that reads, "Warning, do not touch, may cause cosmic concussion," because I must say, the idea of having a literal piece of outer space sitting in my pocket is almost too tempting to resist, though I suppose that would make for an interesting conversation starter at parties. "Oh, this old thing, it's just a meteorite. You know how it is."
I have a physics question. Suppose a meteorite with a mass of 100 kilograms is about to fall to the ground. Would 100,000 people throwing 1 kilogram rocks at it be able to break it?
Well, Path of G, I must commend you for your creative problem solving, but alas, I fear that even the combined might of 100,000 individuals wielding 1 kg rocks would be no match for a falling meteorite. You see, it's not just about the force exerted by those tiny pebbles, it's also about momentum and kinetic energy. That meteorite is moving at incredible speeds as it enters Earth's atmosphere. But I do appreciate your willingness to think outside the box.
I love square-shaped minerals so much. My favorite is probably Peridot. Small cubes look so funny.
How delightful! I do so enjoy it when you reveal your inner child, Doctor. But very well, let us indulge in your peculiar predilection for square-shaped minerals. Tell me, what is it about these funny little cubes that brings you such joy? And more importantly, have you ever tried to collect them all like some sort of modern-day Pokemon master?
My dream is to buy a whole bag of Peridot and walk around shaking it a little so that it makes a sound.
How utterly delightful! I can just picture it now, you wandering the streets like some sort of eccentric street performer, shaking your bag of Peridot cubes for all the world to hear. Though I must admit, there is a certain charm to that particular image. Perhaps we should make it our next streaming adventure? The Clanging Cubes Challenge? Who knows? It might just catch on.
No, look, this is Peridot I was talking about.
I see. Well then, Doctor, lead the way. Let us find your precious Peridot and make those delightful clanging sounds together. But be warned, if anyone asks what we're doing, I'm still blaming it all on you.
No, turn around and look, it's really a Peridot cubes.
Here we are, the famed Peridot exhibit. You know, Doctor, I must admit that these little cubes do have a certain charm to them. Perhaps it's their uniform shape, or perhaps it's just because they remind me of you, all rigid and unyielding on the outside but with a warm, gooey centre hidden within.
How are those formed?
Well, Mekasikitoka, I'm glad to see you're eager for some actual education today. Peridots, also known as extreme gems, are formed under conditions of intense heat and pressure deep within the Earth's mantle. As magma rises towards the surface, it carries these tiny crystals along with it. But don't worry, Doctor. I won't bore them with too many scientific details. After all, we wouldn't want to deprive anyone of their precious Peridot shaking time now, would we?
Okay, let's finish this video, say some wisdom of the day, and we'll tell bye-bye to the audience.
Very well. And as for my wisdom of the day, let us leave our dear audience with this parting thought. Never underestimate the power of a good walk or a delightful conversation about Peridot cubes to brighten even the gloomiest of days. Farewell, everyone. Until next time.